Here comes a new challenger!
Give it a share and all that good jazz. Now, we're streaming live on Twitch. So if you happen to see me on Twitch, give me a follow. We're also streaming off of the Short Fuse Media Group Facebook page. Give that a follow as well. And then we got that out the way. I think I want to dive back into it because we kind of have a little bit of something different going on here today. We're switching up the game. We don't like to keep things the same formula. All right. We want to keep things froggish. And I believe everybody should be able to hear me now. I gave such a good intro too. I finally nailed my intro, and now you can't even hear me. It's freaking terrible. It saddens my heart. But hey, we're neither here nor there. You know, as we've been learning in the virtual camp that I do, patience is a virtue because we're all learning new things here. But you think I'd have the hang of this by now? But I know what I do have the hang of.
Here comes a new challenger!
Tom Kelly's in the building, everybody.
What's up?
Yeah.
I get like the Mortal Kombat.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing all right.
Right. We're gonna get a little.
Yeah. It's like, ooh, Johnny Cage. Ooh.
All right, so we're rocking a couple things different today. Number one, Tom, you've got a beast of a character that I'm going to be drawing.
Oh yeah, super fun.
And
stuff.
You've launched your Kickstarter today for
Yeah.
Foot Fist
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Yep.
So I'm gonna give you a little bit of time here. Tell us about it. Give us the elevator pitch and why we need to get on to your Kickstarter.
Okay. Basically, Foot Fist Frankenstein is all the things I loved from when I was a kid. I was born in '72, so growing up on TV, I would watch monster movies, kung fu theater, and I'd read like tons and tons of comic books. So Foot Fist Frankenstein, that sucker right there, is a combination of all those put together. The story it's a cool like Hong Kong style revenge story. So it's very much like John Wick meets the Incredible Hulk, a la Kung Fu Theater. The main character is the Frankenstein monster, and you follow the story of him wandering the earth, finding peace. and then ultimately meeting some bad people that take that piece away from him. They steal it, and they do really bad things to him, and that sets him on a path to go get vengeance against them. So then all the fun Hong Kong style action happens, which makes it a super entertaining book to draw, a fun character to look at and check out, and really, you know, a very entertaining ride for everyone. Like I said, like it's really a fusion of the things I loved as a kid, and one of the things when I was young, and even now, I look at a character like the Incredible Hulk, and he's just a bruiser. He just like barrels in and just sort of like clobbers people. He doesn't really have any fighting skills like Daredevil or somebody like that, or Batman. And I thought, well, like, you know, what if, you know, the Incredible Hulk had those fighting skills? And then I started really like exploring that, because I was like, well, I love martial arts. I'm an 80s kid, so I love ninjas. I watched all the Shaw Brothers films, and Bruce Lee's a huge idol of mine. And then you take, you know, all that stuff and you put it in with like Jack Kirby's The Incredible Hulk, and then you just jack up the, you know, the energy and the intensity level like you're watching like The Raid Redemption or Mbak, and then you're like, okay, that's what Foot Fist Frankenstein is. I just launched the Kickstarter today, last night at midnight, and you know, we're off to a solid start, and I have a ton of fun rewards. I was able to get a lot of different artists to come on board to help make actual special bonus content for the campaign and in the book. Some of which you can get separately, some of which comes bundled in the book. So anybody who's curious or interested, go to Kickstarter.com, look up Foot Fist Frankenstein under the comics and graphic novels section, and you can really explore the whole campaign. I have a fun video you guys just saw a little bit that we streamed that gives you the rundown of really what I just said, as well as some more visuals to put, you know, what I'm telling you into a visual format so you can see just what a beast I've created. So definitely go to Foot Fist Frankenstein on Kickstarter and check that out.
Awesome. And I've put the link in the comment section. So that's hitting off of Kickstarter. I mean, that's hitting off of Facebook and the Twitch. I'm going to do it again for everybody.
Cool.
And Daniel Caliban, I backed it right before we got on here. And Daniel Caliban just backed it as well. And that's a good segue with Daniel Caliban, because we're doing a crossover print today with your character and his, because he's got the American Dream Kickstarter going.
Yeah, crossovers are always super fun. You know, I always love the old Marvel team ups or Brave and the Bold, when you get like, well, Marvel team ups were always fun because you'd always get like the Thing and like Quasar or somebody like having to do something, so it'd be extra special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're going to put these two characters together and see what they can do. But the way that they will get this will be a digital print. You donate $5 to his Kickstarter, Tom Kelly's, and then you donate $5 to oh my goodness, to American Dreams. I just dropped my own thought to American Dreams, and then you get this print digitally, what I'm doing right now. So you should do that. I already have, because I've donated to both of them.
Awesome. No, that's super cool. That's super cool. But yeah, no, there's a lot of super awesome rewards, and like this, you know, this should be one. This will be one, which is great.
What's up, Haley? How you doing? Oh, you must still be at work, Haley. I'm sorry. We had to do an early episode. I got to teach art class tonight.
Teaching art. That's a special penance all artists have to do.
Right.
No, I actually used to do that. I used to teach art for little kids, like in an after-school program. And it's fun, but man, some days those kids just aren't going to have it. Like, you sit there and you think like, hey guys, today we're going to draw whatever you would think when you were a kid is cool, and they're just not having it. They just give you the stink face and like, bleh, bleh.
Man,
I'm like, okay, well, draw what you want. I don't want to draw, and you're just like, I don't want to draw anything. I was like, no, come on. You want to draw, you wouldn't be here,
right? There's something you want to draw. I've kind of just developed a technique of I trick them into drawing figure drawing stuff, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. You have to Jedi mind trick them. It's fun.
Yeah, we're drawing. Today we drew my Figma art Iron Man yesterday. That thing's got like 40 points of articulation on it. So I put it in a pose, and then we're doing the sketch skeleton, and then we're adding the circles and squares and rectangles on top of it. Then we're scribbling on top of that to kind of add the meat to it, and we're all doing it slightly. Then I'm like, add the details, and then I'm like, you just did figure drawing, boom.
Yeah, I love those draws for those dolls for their articulation. Like they're really good because you can pose them in a million things.
Yeah.
And I've even seen people get clever, use their phone to get bird's eye and worm's eye perspective views.
Yes.
So they can use as reference. And I'm like, oh, that's really clever. I mean, I remember the really crappy art dolls you would get at Michael's or something. And you can't, trying to get that to just do any type of pose. I'm trying to get a Wolverine pose, and it's just 10-year-old me, that isn't happening. And I'm just like, why? Then you're like, okay, G.I. Joe, you're going to help me. You can at least bend your legs, It's like, oh. But that's why I always tell people, go and get something like that. Go and get a doll like that with so many points of articulation, because you can really actually pose it.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays everybody has a phone, so it's you can take pictures of yourself. And I know I do. I pose all the time for stuff, and nobody should ever see the pictures because I look stupid, but it helps me draw, and that's what's important.
Oh, that's always what's important. No matter how much embarrassment you have to sacrifice for yourself.
Oh yeah. Well, luckily I've been to a bunch of drink and draw hangouts and stuff, and I've seen other artists I know their self references. So we've traded on that. It's pretty funny. You haven't lived until you've seen Chris Burnham do a Superman pose for one of his covers, and you're just like, okay, that's special.
Yeah, all that stuff is super fun, man. I love those figures and stuff like that. We have one of those, the raggedy ones that you're talking about, in my class, but we don't use them anymore because I got a couple of those Figmas. My boss is really awesome, and I came into class one day and she had bought some of the Figma. The model ones for class. She's like, here, use these. I was like, man, you're the best.
They really are. It's I think honestly that's kind of probably what's the main selling point is artists like to use those as reference, because they're cool collectors, figures, but all that articulation, you're I don't think some kid's really playing with this and needs 17 points of articulation to move a hand around, but artists love it. We're oh yeah,
we eat that up.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I really do wish that I had when I was younger, that. And I always get burned up about Legos. Legos always burns me up.
Why do Legos burn you up?
Because I had the yellow castle, and now they have a Millennium Falcon you can build.
Oh shoot, yeah.
You have the most basic crap. Legos are the awesome toy. You go always whatever set you get, you just keep building onto. I had all the gray and blue 80s spacemen. I had that guy. I had those sets. They were cool. But man, when I go into the Lego store now and I see the Harry Potter castle or just a Star Wars ATA, and I'm just oh my God, I lose my mind. I'm that's an entire Star Destroyer, just a giant Star Destroyer. And I'm just well, you win. You win, kids of today. You win,
Oh, dude, I'm so upset at the toys and things these kids have. I spent a whole day working with my son. We had got this Ninja Turtle sewer set custom made. It was just a box with a couple levels in it and cut some holes in it or whatnot. And in the move, it got messed up and broke. It just fell apart.
That's
and so when we got to the new house and it's been a while, I took it out the other day for his birthday, got it put back together, and then started adding stuff on top of it. And and then just hooking it up. We got then my daughter got this dollhouse for her birthday, so then I got some accessories for his, like the bunk beds for the turtles and stuff. And like we're all this stuff. I'm in here playing with it, and like I'm looking at my kids, and they want to watch a YouTube video. They want to watch a YouTube video of other kids playing with toys, and I'm like, I would never leave my room. Like look at this place that is dope.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, it's all the stuff we wish we had in our childhood of just like the cool action figures and whatever. And it's like, oh no, kids want to watch Minecraft speed runs and stuff like that. I'm like, I get it, guys. But it's like, but this is like super cool. Like, they just don't know. They don't know the struggle. They don't remember the struggle of Luke having the lightsaber built into his forearm. Like that's Gen 1, or like your land speeder, which you would rub on the ground because it had wheels. And then you literally scratch off all the bottom of it from playing with it in about 5 minutes. Like, just
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
I know I played in that little room for a little bit, and my son eventually came in there. He was playing with me, so he did. But they like that YouTube stuff.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's colored. It's fun to watch.
It's colored.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is. Like, it's bright. It's like when we watch cartoons as kids. Like, and most parents are like, here's a YouTube channel I know that's cool for you to watch. You're just gonna watch somebody play like Minecraft or like Star Wars Lego or something for like 5 hours or whatever, and you're like, cool. I mean, it's cool stuff. But yeah. I'm just kind of like, but you got like, but right next to him is like a giant like thing, and you're just like, Meanwhile, I was, beating my brother over the head with Shogun Warriors when I was a kid. So it's like, I don't know.
You never know what's gonna work for him and satisfy him. I just know if I had all the stuff that they did when I was a kid, man, the playtime would never stop.
Oh, it was super cool. Yeah, I mean, our parents used to have to yell at us to come back from outside. Now, our kids to go outside and play. So it's a trade-off. It's a weird trade-off. Like, it's come full circle for some reason.
Now it's like, get out the house.
Yeah. It's like, put that down. Put down your device and go out and play anything. Meanwhile, my mom would be like, I mean, my younger brother and I literally lit our backyard on fire.
What?
Like, the fire department came. Like, actually had to show up. It was like, I mean, obviously, 4th of July, young kids are going to be kids, and we're playing with, like, Roman candles and stuff, so, yeah.
I dig it.
But that was the thing. You made your own fun. You didn't have super cool toys. You were just like, hey, I got fire in a backyard. Let's see what can happen. I don't know.
Not fire in a backyard.
Yeah, you just like watching my mom try to explain that to the fire department was special. I was like, I'm in so much trouble. So much.
Well, yeah, they don't get into trouble like that as much. So,
but the funny thing though is, like, with all the stuff that I would do outside and play, like drawing and reading comic books were always the stuff that would be the thing that would focus me and quiet me down and get me just into that headspace of just doing stuff, which was great, and that's really where I get like all the that's where all my love and passion sort of comes from comics and making art, is that time of just being a kid and just, being left to my own devices and just sort of doing it, which is fun.
All right, and just one more again, because I'm gonna be doing this throughout the whole show. This
sure.
is Tom's Kickstarter. You donate at least $5 to this Kickstarter, and then this is Daniel's Kickstarter. You donate at least $5 to that Kickstarter. Both the links are in the comments, and you will get this print that I am working on right now, digital version of it, for donating to both those Kickstarters.
Cool.
I didn't mean to cut you off, man, but I got to remember to promote.
No. It's the nature of the beast, man. It's the nature of the beast. I understand it. Plus, you're helping both of us, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But yeah,
So,
no,
so
so
let's
go
get a
ahead.
little in depth. Let's start looking at this character. So, I mean, he's massive.
Oh
Like
yeah.
what? Like I know these are the things that you love. You said you just put all the things together that you just really enjoyed, and I would just have to say it's just not a concept that I've seen before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just you don't just see a martial arts Frankenstein
Yeah.
up in this bad boy. So what's the process? What's the Haley? I'm sorry. Haley always gets upset because there's always a new creator on the show, and then she has something else that she wants to get.
Oh no, I can understand that. It's a hard life. It's a hard
It
life.
is. So, kind of walk us through your process, man, to get here. I can't imagine that this was just an instantaneous like idea that just popped up. Like, how did this thing grow and mature?
All right. Well, the germ of the idea and the sort of like the sort of very rough, nucleus of it started really with the concept of like when I would read like Superman or Incredible Hulk comics. I love both of those characters. I'm a huge Jack Kirby monster kid, so those are
Mhm.
always comic books that I sort of gravitate to. And several years ago, probably like 2012 or something like that, I was reading, I think it was a Superman comic book, and I just was noticing, like, I mean, it was really well drawn, but like the fights are always like Superman, like one big punch, one big bruiser thing, one sort like Superman never does a roundhouse kick.
Right.
Superman doesn't like, and neither does the Hulk. Like the Hulk doesn't like do a backflip and then like hit a nerve strike. Like he doesn't do that. Like, and I would that's when it came to me of like what would it be like if an individual that strong or that powerful actually knew how to fight, was trained how to fight.
Hmm.
And ideas come with you and they sort of sit there, and I kept sort of coming back to this because it was a fun concept. To me, it interested me. And so I said, well, this has been hanging around. I draw in my sketchbook. I have tons and tons of sketchbooks. So I'm always drawing in them and doing stuff and, working out ideas. And I just kept coming circling back to it, over and over again, different sketches and, stuff like that. So I said, okay, I want to do this character. I think that would be cool. Like draw a character like the Hulk, that just knows Kung Fu. And so, of course, what do you do when you have this idea burning in you that you want to make? Well, Marvel Comics doesn't pick up my phone calls for some reason. I don't know why, but I don't get past the switchboard guy. So,
Okay.
yeah, surprisingly, they're not just like, oh, Tom, sure, let me get you the balls in the phone. No. So they're not going to let me, do a Hulk story that like this. Same with DC. I'm not best friends with Johnny DC, so
Johnny, I love it. I love it. Johnny DC.
yeah, like so, I'm not like, hey Johnny, give me work. Sure, Tom, okay, no. So I said, like, all right, I'm gonna do this myself. I've wanted to do a project for a long time, like a creator-owned project, but I never had something that seemed to have sustainability. So then I started really cracking open the concept of like, okay, what is like a Hulk-like character, but is not the Hulk? Because I can't do the Incredible Hulk. Marvel owns that, so
Right.
I get in trouble for that. And so when I was thinking about the Hulk, I started thinking, well, the Hulk basically as a character is one part Frankenstein and the other part Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like,
Hmm.
so I said, well, why don't I, go right to the source? And Frankenstein and the Frankenstein monster are public domain. Anybody can use them. So I was like, okay, now I've got this character that people know, everyone knows Frankenstein. Even if all they've seen is a crappy movie, they understand Frankenstein exists.
I
So if
didn't
I
know he
say,
was. I didn't know he was public domain.
oh yeah, if you Google public domain characters, you'll find an actual official list, and there's a lot of different ones. A lot of them are like Captain America type characters. A lot of classic movie monsters and stuff are. Uh, Basically, interesting aside, right? Frankenstein and the Frankenstein monster are in the public domain. The Bride of Frankenstein is not. That was created for a movie, and I think it's like Universal Films owns that rights to that character.
Okay.
So, anybody, if you have ideas out there and you're looking for sort of characters or something recognizable that might have already existed that you can help synergize with things, look up what is in public domain, and you'll find that there's a lot of stuff that you can be like, that's a lot like my character that I'm coming up with. I mean, there are not really a lot of new ideas, but there are a lot of creative variations on classic ideas.
Mm-hmm. And Daniel actually says, given that Liberty, which I thought was a good mix because Daniel's book is based off of history or whatnot, but he's a big old school buff with the history and Frankenstein being an old school character. I thought that was kind of a cool mix. But he says, given that Liberty is a boxer street brawler, when it comes to fighting, it will be an interesting fight going up against a martial artist, Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and sort of that then sort of like dovetails into like why I wanted to make the character, do specifically martial arts. And because that's a fun fighting style, but like one of my like childhood idols and all-time faves is Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce Lee was a martial artist who even sort of developed his own fight philosophy and fighting style called Jeet Kune Do.
Right.
Which, in a very simplified way, basically says like, use whatever, way to fight you can to win a fight.
Mm-hmm.
He always said you want to flow like water. When you pour water into a glass, it becomes a glass. When you pour water onto the table, it spreads out to the table. It can raise you up or it can pound you down. Like, so you're always flowing and moving around. And that, like, he felt like classic Kung Fu was very regimented in forms where, like, if someone throws a kick, I counter with this type of block, and then they counter my block. Kind of like if anyone plays Mortal Kombat, you have a throw and a combo you set up, and then they have a combo breaker and a counter poke to that, and you sort of battle back and forth in set styles. So, Bruce, he was like, no, like whatever you need to win, like, you don't have to do super fancy things. You can just flow and like hit someone with a simple punch or hit someone with a simple kick or a complex kick, whichever is right for the right time. So when like you have a street brawler fighting with a martial artist, there's an interesting back and forth because, a boxer street brawler, they're fighting to win. They're fighting like no rules. And many martial artists tend to be more like format style. Like they're going to have a technique that they're going to use, and a brawler can sometimes throw you off, which is fun. The way I married it with my character was that like he's, much more of that sort of like whatever you need to win Bruce Lee sort of flow philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because again, also he's a big character. Like there's certain moves and techniques that like you watch some of these Kung Fu masters and like they have to be very small. Like they have to be very lithe and super flexible to just achieve.
Yeah.
So you have to, especially when I was like drawing the character and drawing out fight scenes and stuff, I had to sort of balance like, well, that won't be, like that type of kick or that type of punch won't look cool when you draw it because just the size and scale of the character doesn't make it as pleasing as other things,
Yeah. See, I don't think a lot of people consider that stuff when making comic books and things like that. That you have to look at size, height, frame, what works. Like we're literally trying to figure out momentum based off of these fictional characters in our head, what matches up with their body type or whatnot.
Oh yeah, for sure. Also, you're also building drama in a fight. Like when you watch like The Matrix or something like The Raid or Dread, right? And those are action movies where people are fighting a lot, but it's fight choreography. Like they're doing a dance. Like they plan out how they're gonna move. Like you watch a Jackie Chan sequence where like he's gonna bounce all around the room and flip and grab a ladder and spin it around and then jump through the ladder 7 times back and forth, and it all looks very seamless and like flashy and cool. Or you know, and that's part of the fight choreography. Like I don't have a team like Wu Ping and those guys to do fight choreography. For me, I have to draw it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, you know, you have to play to the strengths of like the character and who he's fighting. So like obviously if my character is fighting a ninja, right? Well, the ninja is going to be super slick and fast and lithe and like a shadow and just really be all over the place. You know, Frankenstein, my character, he's more of like a mountain. Like, you know, you hit him and then he strikes back. Like he's quick and he's fast and he's well trained, but he's not going to be the fastest fighter in the room. Sometimes his strength and durability where he can take a lot of punishment and then tire you out. That sort of rope-a-dope style, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, those are all the elements that like, and again, like I started the concept in like 2012, so I had time to develop what the character looked like. So like this character evolved over the course of a couple of years, just being in the back of my head and in my sketchbooks of like, oh, do I want him to have long hair? Do I want to have him have a ponytail? Do I want him to wear a vest? Do I want him to wear a shirt? Like all the little design elements I put in and visual look for the character, like were developed and sort of workshopped over time.
About how much time do you think?
Oh, I mean, like I said, like I started, you know, with the concept in 2012 and really started developing it like visually about 13, 14. So a couple years really. Like, I mean, on and off and off and on. But, you know, I have sketchbooks over here full of different like variations of the design and the costume and, you know, the character himself. Like, because like a lot of people, like when I'll say, oh, my character's Frankenstein, they think of like that Herman Munster, like square head, bolts in the neck sort of Frankenstein. And I'm like, well, that's not even the Mary Shelley version of Frankenstein. Like in the actual book, that's not even the way she describes the character. That's just like a movie sort of TV trope that we all accept as Frankenstein from like Halloween and stuff, right?
Right.
So, you know, you start playing with different, like I said, you start exploring and playing different concepts of like, well, you know, is the character going to be long and lanky? Because he could be. He could just be really tall. And then you have other things like, do I want to put stitching everywhere? Which is another like trope of Frankenstein monsters is like they always have a lot of stitching. And then I was thinking to myself like, well, if you look at like a lot of anime and manga, when characters have scars and stuff like that, they're more like almost like colorful designs. They're not necessarily hyper detailed like stitching or scars that are burnt onto somebody. They're like a red like cross or like a slash. So I said, well, why don't I do something like that and make it a little more designy rather than having me to have to draw 10,000 stitches on an arm or a chest or a face or a head, you know, which helps A, simplify the form and make it easier for you to draw, and B, does help it be a little bit more original and stand out.
Oh, dude, like I just kind of feel like just hearing you talk right now, like just is really adding to me trying to make this character. Hearing how you break it down.
It definitely helps. I mean, like other things that I worked on and like sort of struggled with were like the hairstyle. Like at one point, you know, I wanted him to be like maybe like bald. At another point, I was thinking like really long hair that would always be in his face. And I really didn't like any of the concepts I was playing with. And then one day I was like at the gym and on my headphones and my mix, one of the Misfits songs came up.
Mhm.
And that band, the Misfits, has a really particular like hairstyle, like
Yes, he does.
they look, right? So I said, yeah, like that'll work because nobody does that in comic books, really. Like that's a very unique haircut sort of look that I could incorporate into this character and have him be like different from other Frankenstein's people would see and look at. So I was like, oh, that's great. Like then I have this, can add that. And, I'm also looking at like lots of martial art character designs, whether it's from like Shaw Brothers movies or Bruce Lee's films or things like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. And you take bits and pieces and you play around with them, and some don't quite fit, and you move them off to the side, and others you're like, no, that works. Like a great way to add like motion or like implied motion to a drawing is like necklaces and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like when a character moves and swings a necklace or a belt or a cape. Like I think that's why a lot of like superheroes have capes, because it's easy to imply like motion with the flowing of a cape or the direction that it goes at and things like that. And that's why I put in that sort of big, large, like necklace that he wears around his head.
I'm liking, I'm digging how you're thinking, man. This process is very interesting here. I'm really liking where you're going because I was really looking forward to the episode today just to figure out, like, to hear how you designed this character and how you came up with some of the things, because this is like the exact opposite of what Frankenstein actually would look like from the traditional things that I've seen, in this like stark white silhouette with the heavy lines on the top, on the upper body, the hair. I was definitely interested in where you came with the hair, but like to signify the motion. I mean, hearing you break down and like really calculate every facet of these designs, knowing, I mean, in my head I knew they were intentional, but hearing how intentional they are, I'm very impressive.
Well, I mean, it works well too because I was developing the story as I was developing the character. So I knew there were things I would need. I knew I wanted to have fight scenes. I knew I wanted to have sort of, cool entrance scenes. So the character had to be impressive just sort of standing there. But also I knew it like had to move and really be like dynamic at times. And then I also like started to like fuse in the stuff that I thought was cool from like things that I watched. Like he has tattoos, right? Like the tattoos on his forearms. He has these 2 dragon tattoos. Those are part of the story. Those are incorporated how he gets those. And they're also me giving like a homage and incorporating stuff from like Kung Fu: The Legend Continues with David Carradine. Like I would watch, that old TV show as a kid, like The Legend of Kung Fu. And, that character had these 2, Shaolin tattoos, or brands actually, on his forearms that were really like distinct. And I like that effect. I like that effect a lot. Also, it's a way to like give focus to like when somebody throws a punch or when somebody blocks or like when they get into like a warrior stance in a pose, that you see a visual, like instantly you can really pick out like who's who if it's just a silhouette or just a shape.
Yeah.
Which adds a lot, which really helps make it like more dynamic, to work on, because overall the character design is relatively simple. It's not a lot of clothing and gear and equipment. It's very like lean and mean and like sparse and specific.
Yeah.
But it's there. I mean, it's all there for a purpose, like visually to look cool, but also in the story, like those elements are accounted for. They are all there purposefully and come into play. Like it's not, nothing's just super by accident because I'm like, well, I just think it's cool. Like I thought it was cool, but then when you work on the story, you can make a reason for it, and then that influences the look, and so it sort of tag teams back on itself over time, which is nice.
Yeah, we're gonna have ourselves a good time today. This one.
But also, like, hey, he's a big giant monster, so he's fun to draw just on that level. I mean, at least for me. Like I said, I grew up reading like lots of Jack Kirby comics, so I always loved things like the Fourth World and Orion and Mr. Miracle, and you have characters like Darkseid and Calabac, who are these big, like, brutish, monstery, like, things. Like, the way Kirby would draw anybody is like extra gnarly. Like, they have an extra weight and force to them. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, I try to, bring that in. I mean, I think most people try to do that when they're, designing a character for, say, like, whether it's video games or comic books. But I know for me, like, I'm mindful of that stuff because, you see and hear and read lots about, like, how, like, other game designers do it and stuff like that. So.
Daniel says, no lie, I might have a crossover story seeds now cooking in my head. I'm feeling quite inspired.
Cool.
And
Cool.
I think I'm not going to try to toot my own horn, but I think after this piece gets done, people are going to see a freaking crossover with these two characters.
As you should. It's cool stuff. I mean, for me, also, like, that was the fun thing with this character is, like, he's very pliable. Like, he's a big, cool character that, like, you walk into a room, you notice this character, and you want to, interact with them. Well, you know what I mean? Like, he's down to fight. Like, that's just it. Like, you want that sort of Hulk versus the Thing showdown. You want that Iron Fist fighting Batman. You want Wolverine versus Sabretooth.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, you get those matchups. You get, my character doesn't just walk over some of the other villains in the book. Like, he does come up against other, weapons masters and martial arts masters that give him a battle and make it a fight because, he's still a living, breathing, creature. Like, and so he bleeds, he feels pain, like he can be burned, he can be cut. And so, there's a lot of still mortality to this character. He's not some sort of, it's like super god. He's not that.
Yeah.
He's definitely like a very upper level street fighter. He's tough. He's strong. You can give him a lot of abuse and he's going to keep coming at you. But what does really give him the edge is that, like, he's so well trained. It's that combination of, like, okay, let's take a 7-foot tall giant of a guy and turn him into a kung fu master and then set him loose on the world. Like, oh, okay, you're gonna see some cool stuff.
Awesome. So what's your idea of characters taking losses?
What's that?
How do you feel about characters taking losses?
Oh, well, I mean, that's all for, like, drama. So you can't have any character just win easy, right? It's kind of like beating the video game on easy. It's not fun. Like, it's fun for, like, a second, but you want a challenge. If you don't have the risk of losing or even losing or the struggle to get better, then, most people lose interest. And I think that's true with, like, every character. Like, whether it's Superman or Wolverine or my character, there's got to be a struggle. You've got to lose at some point, or at least meet such a level of adversity that you have to go back to training, right? Like, I mean, look at Rocky, right? Every Rocky movie has a training montage, has him lose his first couple of fights, then has him come back and win the big fight. I mean, Rocky 3 is, like, the perfect example of that, because, like, he goes to, like, Russia and he trains, and then he finally fights, Dolph Lundgren in, some super crazy sweaty battle, of the century. And even in that fight, it's not like he walks in and he just wins. He like gets beat up a lot and he takes a beating over time, and then his will and then his training allow him to endure those hardships and ultimately triumph. And I mean, and that's what you get for any story. And my character in my story has that struggle, does face opposition, and has to struggle to overcome these things. He's still a big, strong, super cool character, but everybody, can meet their match, especially if they're not taking their opponents seriously, right?
Right.
I mean, when we watch real boxing matches or like MMA, right? You can watch somebody come into the ring and just decimate their opponent. Like it's like a knockout or a tap out in the first like minute. Like that's how quick it can be. Or it can be some sort of super long battle of two people who kind of know what they're doing against each other. And like you'll never get somebody to tap out. You'll never get them to submit. Like you'll just watch that, just like them just getting more brutalized as the fight goes on. But it's the struggle. Like that's why we watch the stuff. That's why it's interesting to us. So yeah, like I do feel every character has to be able to lose because then the comeback's even greater, right?
The comeback is even greater.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree with you 130,000,000%. I am all about the character comeback. Am I erasing the right ones? No, that's the wrong one. I want to erase the other one.
So many circles. I just sit there with my circle template and be like, yep, yep, yep.
Right. Here we go. Yep, there we go. Just trying to take some little shortcuts here.
Oh no, you got to work efficiently. I mean, I've drawn this character so much now. Really, I have all the shortcuts burned into my brain. It's pretty funny. No, it really is. Like, because I mean, my comics, like it's a graphic novel. It's like 120 pages, and this character has to appear at least on 90% of those pages, doing just about everything, like standing, fighting, sitting, moving, 20 million facial expressions, and all that fun stuff. And yeah, you really, and I mean that's even after me like struggling with the design. So like, well, okay, so yeah, if anyone is interesting, if you back the Kickstarter, even at the digital level, at the $10 level, you get a digital deluxe version, and you're gonna get an alternate cover. You're gonna get a whole bunch of bonus, like Kickstarter exclusive, like pinups that are only in the Kickstarter digital version, and you also get character designs.
Mm-hmm.
And the character designs are like all the main characters. So it's Frankenstein here, plus a bunch of the bad guys, plus a few of the like good guys supporting cast. And, you get to see, the thought process, like why, like how it's broken down, like how this character is drawn and why he's drawn. And then the height relationship between him and the other characters. And yeah.
Daniel says, I'm actually serious, Tom. We need to talk later.
Oh, we will. I'm not against the crossover. I love this character. I mean, trust me, I did a 120-page graphic novel and been working on this character for years now. So I've got a lot of stories yet to come to do with this character. And I'm totally for crossovers. It's fun stuff. I mean, but
all right. So, Tom, when I came on here, and I like to do this, when I came over here, you was at $556 when I came on here.
Cool.
And as of right now, since we've been on the show, you're at $626.
Oh, awesome! That's great. Thanks.
Up to
Thanks,
20
everybody.
pledges.
That's awesome, man. That's super cool. I mean, look, I'm grateful for everyone who just clicks on and checks it out and logs in, and I really do think like I made a fun, cool comic for people to read and check out, and I've really put in that campaign a lot of fun rewards that like there's cool stuff. Like I've got like some awesome little sketch cover rewards and original art pieces. And, even like I said, like in the digital deluxe version, the $10 version, you get 120 pages of story, like 15 pinups, all by different artists, all by different guest artists, friends of mine, pros, people I know from over the years. You get a digital copy of the script. You can literally read the script and compare it to what's drawn. some people are like process junkies. And so like that really jazzes them to be like, oh, okay, yeah. He said to draw this fight scene this way, and that's how like, and then you see it broken down, right?
Yeah.
You get like the character designs. Plus, I also bundle in other things like Zoom backgrounds and wallpaper backgrounds on the digital version. Because like, hey, look, I know not everybody, is gonna want the actual physical book. Like, some people want to help, but I try to make a tier for everybody so that anybody who wants to support me, you get the maximum bang for your dollars. Because like, man, I've backed a bunch of Kickstarters over the years since like I know a lot of artists, a lot of friends of mine, and some of the stuff has like all the stuff has been cool, but some of the rewards and some of the things I'm like, man, I like that, but I just can't do that level. I just can't.
Yeah.
Do that, right.
I understand.
And then you get into the next little, fun thing about Kickstarter which is, well, shipping costs money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in Abu Dhabi and you really want to, support my book, that's great. But probably shipping to, Abu Dhabi might be 3 times the cost of the pledge.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to ask anybody to do that. Like, hey, if somebody wants it, I'll work with you. Like, I'll ship anywhere. I mean, I've set the campaign for the United States, but if you really want it, just contact me through Kickstarter and, I'll make it happen. I just want you to know up front, like, hey, this is probably what shipping is going to cost, and I don't want to have to put you out, rather than at the end of the campaign have people going like, I didn't know shipping was going to be this much, man. And I'm like, hey, I understand that. I do. That's why I really try to make the digital versions just jam-packed with cool stuff. And like I said, it's the Digital Lux for Kickstarter. The digital version you get on Kickstarter will not be the digital version that goes to maybe like Comixology later, or will be sold through like my websites and stuff like that. This is only for the Kickstarter campaign. Like, you get custom pinups that aren't going to show up in other digital versions. You get bonus material that isn't going to show up in the digital versions. Like I really wanted to make it special for anyone who supported me on the Kickstarter to get something super cool that they know is theirs and that only an elite few have. I really wanted to do that.
That's what's up, man. That attention to detail and consideration on the Kickstarter is very much appreciated on these things, because I absolutely agree with you, man. There's people that have some really cool things on their Kickstarter, but then you throw that shipping price on top of it, you're like, I want to help, but I do want that, but let me find something that I can afford.
And then there's also like the pitfall of like, if you miscalculate shipping, I mean, if I'm off by 50 cents, like for like a quarter of a pound or something, that's like huge. That's a lot of money that I have to eat because I was being stupid. And hey, guess what? I'm going to make mistakes. I know that. So I try to idiot proof myself before anything else. So, I mean, I was lucky. I had friends like Henri Campen and other Chicago artists.
Oh, Henri's the man.
Hey, I interviewed him. Like I met him for lunch one day and we sat down and I had a list of like 70 questions, and it said, all right, Kickstarter campaign, making this book. Question 1. And then we just went through the list, like all the way through lunch. I bought him lunch. I bought him some beers, and I did that with him. And then I did that with my good friend Dan Doherty here, who has done.
I know Dan Doherty too.
I did the covers for his books, his Kickstarter campaigns. I did the covers for his books, Touching Evil.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anybody knows Dan out there in internet land, and the Touching Evil graphic novels that he's produced, I did the covers for those. So I did the same thing with Dan. I sat him down. I bought him. He only wanted coffee. We met later in the evening, so he just wanted coffee. So I bought him coffee, and we went through the list of like, what do you think worked? What didn't work? What do you do? How do you do this? Tell me about shipping. Tell me about this. Tell me about these rewards. And So I talked to him, and I talked to other friends of mine, people like Gene Ha, who's done a bunch of Kickstarters, and a few other people, other indie artists I know, and really tried to figure out the beast before I got into it.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of pitfalls, and I've heard a lot of them. Like, I know there are people, oh man, like I want to say like 2 months ago, I had backed a Kickstarter campaign, and then I get the message, and the guy's like, hey, yeah, sorry, I know it's been a year, and I don't have the book done, and I don't know when it's coming out, and that's it, right? And I'm sitting there to myself, just sort of grinding my teeth, going like, well, I gave you money because I wanted you to succeed, but it's been a year, and you haven't done jack squat. That's why, like, with this book, with my book on Kickstarter, it's done. The artwork is done. It's lettered. It's colored. It's organized. The file's ready to go. Like,
Hold up. Tom, stop right now. You are not going to be on this show talking that type of spoiler right now. My man said the book is done. Files done. Prep, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not printed, but everything in the work that, like, a person, when they come and ask you on Kickstarter, like, to make a comic book, I did all the work ahead of time, the drawing, the writing, the coloring. I hired a letterer, Marshall Dillon. He lettered the book for me. He did a great job. I paid him. So, like, I front-loaded all the work in that now I just have to concentrate on the campaign. And then after the campaign, once I get the books, it's just fulfillment, which is literally just me doing the rewards and filling orders and then sending stuff out to people. That's what I want to do. I didn't want to be one of these people like, yeah, if you can give me money and then a year later I might have this book done. No, I wasn't going to do that to anybody.
Okay.
That just drives me nuts. Like, it drives me nuts because that really is saying, oh yeah, in like 2 years you might get a book. That's cool. And I understand not everybody can work the way I did. Because like I said, I started doing this book, like literally drawing it in like 2015. Over the course of 2015, 16, 17, and 18, life threw me a million curveballs. I had surgery on my hips, so I had to go and do that. And that took me like a year to recover, where I wasn't doing any drawing. In 2015, my mom passed away. She was my last parent. And so not only did I have to, deal with the fallout emotionally of that. And by the way, when someone passes away, especially like your mom, nothing gets done. The world literally stops and you just deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the practical fallout of like, well, I had to, clear out the family home in Pennsylvania. I live in Chicago, so I'd have to drive to Pennsylvania, start clearing out the house, spend like 2 weeks there, come back to Chicago, then come back to Pennsylvania. So that was like, that was really most of 2015 is what I was doing. Like, systematically getting the house ready to be put up on the market, and then dealing with all of my, my mom's, last wishes and things like that. So you don't get a lot done creatively when you're dealing with that stuff. And since it's a personal project, everything, that isn't paying you is pushed to the side. So that's why, like, when you sit there and say like, oh, Tom, you've really thought out this character and you've really thought out the story. It's like, well, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do this book in a year. So I was like, well, I'm just going to take my time and do it right. And when it's ready to go, it's ready to go. And so that's what I did. That's just what I did. And I mean, it really was helpful and valuable because like I'd draw pages and then I'd be away from the pages for like 3 weeks, maybe a month. And then I'd go back and look at the pages and I'd be like, okay, well, I got to fix this. I got to correct this. When I was doing even the story, I mean, the story was always fluid. So, I like to work in a more Marvel style, like a more Marvel method. I did write I did write a full script actually because I knew I would have Marshall letter it, and a letterer, it's going to be easier for them to work off an actual full script. But I sort of did that in the tail end of the project. So I had a lot of it like Marvel method done, which for everybody out there sort of listening who doesn't quite know what I mean when I say that is you start with a plot and an idea, like an outline, and you really sort of tell the story as you're drawing it, as opposed to writing a script beforehand and saying, oh, he goes to the docks and then he, beats up some, fishermen and then goes to the next place and does this. You're more like drawing it and then thinking up dialogue as you're drawing the page, and then you're crafting the story of saying like, well, I've got him to this part. Like now he's on the cliff face. What do I do? Like how do I get him to the castle and things like that? So the Marvel method was what guys like Jack Kirby and this stuff would use a lot. Like they would make books very quickly. So they come into the office on say Friday, and Jack and Stan Lee would sit there and talk, and Stan Lee would say, all right, I got an idea. Like maybe the Hulk fights the Abomination and Rick Jones gets hurt. Okay, that's the idea. Jack Kirby then goes, all right, I'm going to go do that. So he goes off and he would draw that. He would be telling the story visually, drawing it of like, okay, the Hulk comes to this small town and, a puppy gets kicked and that sends the Hulk into a rage. And then the Abomination shows up and he and the Hulk fight because they don't like each other. And then Rick Jones comes in and tries to calm them down. And Rick gets hurt and the Hulk gets even madder and then beats up the Abomination. And then by Monday, they're in the office going, okay, now we're going to write the dialogue for all this.
Right.
So I'm much more of an art first, writing like second phase.
Mm-hmm.
When you do it yourself, it's a little easier. When you work with other people, I've worked with other artists and other writers, and usually I just go with whatever way they express themselves the best with. Like writers, they're better at writing. So I just usually tell people when they hand me a script, like, write the script however it works for you to tell me what you need the story is. And then just understand that, like, I'm not going to draw every panel exactly the way you said it. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's like, well, how we were talking about fight choreography. If you get a really good stunt guy or a really good fight choreographer, like, that's what they're going to do. You just say, like, and now there's a fight sequence. You don't sit there and say, okay, well, in this scene, Bruce Lee is going to throw a punch, and then John Saxon's going to block it, and then Jim Kelly's going to jump up from the back and give him a roundhouse kick. Bruce is going to look at you and go, no, I got this. You do that, I'll come in here, we'll do this, blah, 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 bing, bang, bang, and it'll look cool. So that's usually kind of how I roll when I'm making comics for other people. I let their story, I read their story, I break it down, and then I draw it the way I, cinematography see it in my head. I don't mess with their dialogue, I don't change their scenes or anything else super drastically, but camera angles and certain settings and stuff like that, I'm like, man, you hired an artist to be an artist. You didn't hire them to just regurgitate what you wrote in the script. Like, it's a team up. It's not just, hey, draw monkey, draw. Like, no.
So
I've had that. I've had writers come to me and be like that and be like, oh yeah, here's the page, and they're like, yeah, you didn't you didn't draw like what was in the script. I was like, well, no, like the character enters this room and sees this crystal and gets energy blasts from it. Like, that's what I draw. Like, yeah, but you didn't do it the way I told you. And I was like, well, right, but that was, this way works just as good. And they'll sit there sometimes and just like fold their arms like a little kid and be like, but it's not what I wrote. And I'm like, man, I don't think you understand how this works. Like, the greatest comics you've ever read weren't done by someone saying, draw this exactly the way I told you to draw it, and poof, genius comes out. Like, that doesn't work that way. And not only that, then you have comics that are done by like Marvel and DC, you have colorists, sometimes a couple. You have letters, sometimes a couple. You have editors, usually at least two on the book, an assistant editor, and then the head editor. Then you have like maybe two writers. Maybe you have a penciler and an inker. So it's like, man, this is like it's a whole team effort. Like everyone's bringing their A game to the fight, and that's how you win. It's not just like, if you try to act like you're the lead singer of the band, well, guess what? This is the day your guitarist decides not to play the guitar on stage. You know, like this is where they just stand there going like, okay, well, you're so good, just sing without guitars. You know, so you know that's the fun of it. But like, no, I like Marvel style when I work with myself because it's easier for me to draw it than it is to articulate it through words. Yes, articulate it through words. That's exactly me talking. Yes. But I can draw it, and it'll be fun and cool, and it'll flow. It'll make way more sense that way. You know. Now everyone realizes why I draw and not talk. That's the key. You know, maybe this is why Johnny DC isn't calling up my phone like a maniac. You know. But no, so yeah, like it's always fun stuff, but like this project has taken a lot of time, and basically because life made me be still and slow me down. So I was able then, because like if you can't be the first on the mountain, you just want to be, well, I want to get to the mountain, and I don't want to be winded when I get to the top. So you allow yourself to take time and focus on doing it right as best you can, and as opposed to hurrying your way through to make a specific deadline, which can be a problem. You know,
Yeah,
you don't want to do that. So
this is turning out really fun.
yeah, no, I like it. Super cool. But oh yes, it's a fun character to draw. Like I really do enjoy working on him, and that was when I knew I'd been drawing him so much in the sort of creation stage. That's when I knew that I liked it and that I wanted to really pursue it as an actual book. Because a lot of times you get a cool idea, you draw it once or twice, and then you're like, okay, now I'm on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but when something really sticks and you keep coming back to it, you're like, no, I want to really, like, I think I really like this thing. I want to dig into it more and really have fun, you know?
Daniel Calvin said he upped his pledge.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool, man. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Jay Man's in the building. Jay, what's up, man? I think he's the most consistent viewer I have. I think he's watched every single episode live.
Oh, he's a hardcore fan. I like that, man. That's awesome.
Him and Haley go head to head for that. Haley's now home. She said she just got home and there's a major storm going on. Literally right after I sat down, my lights flickered.
Oh, she's just doing that for dramatic effect. She's just over in the corner. Like, oh, hurricane. Oh.
Awesome.
No, I mean, I believe you. I believe you. There probably is a major storm. I do. It's funny when you talk about storms. I used to live in Savannah, Georgia. That's where I went to art school. And every year around like August is the year at that time, you just watch the Weather Channel. That's what you do. Because all you're sitting there is like, please don't let there be a hurricane. Please don't let there be a hurricane. Please don't let there be a hurricane. And every year you're just sort of ready to like just get in the car and just drive away from Georgia. You're just like, I will just get out of this entire state. Well, no. I mean, I lived down there in the late 90s, like 97, 98, 99, and like right in the end of 2000. And it was an active hurricane season those years, so it's always interesting stuff. It's That's when you're not really worried about the lights flickering. That's when you're more worried about like how long will you be out of power. Like that's really.
I hate when those situations happen. I hate them so much. I mean, just like J-Man says, I just got home. What have I missed about this character? All right, well, actually, this is because now that I'm on to the second part of this thing, this is a good time. Tom, hit him again. Explain to him what it is. We have the Kickstarter going live right now. So I will say this. This is actually a crossover print that you get if you donate $5 to Tom's Kickstarter and $5 to Daniel Caliban's Kickstarter. You'll get this digital print for free with that Kickstarter, with both of them actually. And the Kickstarter links are actually in the comments on Facebook and on Twitch. So you have both of them there that you can donate to right now. Now, I'm not going to say that Chat and Jaws the sole reason that he made almost $100 this hour, but what I will say, he made $100 in donation on Chat and Jaws.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really appreciate that. So, okay, so Jay, I'll give you the rundown on my character. My character is he's the big burly guy with the necklace. His name is the Foot Fist Frankenstein. He's basically the Frankenstein monster.
I'll give him a quick look.
Sure.
Give him a quick look at what we got today so far.
Sure.
Yeah, that's him right there, man. Yeah. He's a freaking beast.
Yes. So the character, basically, he's the main character in my graphic novel of the same name, Foot Fist Frankenstein. He's really a sort of a combo. He's really sort of like John Wick meets the Incredible Hulk a la Kung Fu Theater. So kind of like imagine if the Incredible Hulk could fight like Bruce Lee, and you kind of get what this character is about. It's like we were talking about, the Kickstarter campaign is live right now. It's got a whole bunch of cool rewards. It's up. The links are below, but it's on Kickstarter.com. You just look at Foot Fist Frankenstein in the comic book section, comic books, graphic novels. Yep, right there. And there's a lot of super cool rewards. So, check those out. I got pictures and a lot of detailed information about the rewards. So, like, you can really get some cool stuff and have fun. This is going to be a reward. This print is going to be one of the rewards, in there that you'll be able to get if you backed on here, which is cool. The story is kind of a very interesting, simple story. Frankenstein, after wandering the earth for a little while, he finds peace and happiness. But some bad dudes, some bad guys, a warlord comes along, and he crosses Frankenstein. He wrongs him, and then hurts Frankenstein pretty bad, like, messes him up, and then Frankenstein's like, nope, that's it, and Frankenstein's like out for revenge. At that moment, it's on. It's just full on, and then you get into like a Hong Kong fighting spectacular, like you might see in like the Ray Redemption, or any like Shaw Brother, or just Kung Fu Theater battle. It's some really cool stuff in there. I really also, interesting, we were talking about designing the character earlier, and I also sort of had to design the world that the character's in, because...
Hey, Tom, real quick.
Sure.
Real quick, you're at $756 today.
Awesome. That's cool. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's super cool. I'm ecstatic. That's great. So the world, right? So like I went through a lot of ways to like try to design the character, but one of the things I did have to also like factor in was like the world and the environment that like Frankenstein's in, because I like ninjas and samurai warriors and Shaolin boxers and Krav Maga and Muay Thai and like all sorts of martial arts fighting, not to mention nunchucks and samurai swords and Chinese swords and like cool staffs and stuff. Those all don't fit in an actual like standard real life martial arts world. Like some are Chinese, some are Japanese, some are like Middle Eastern. So I really crafted the world that the character's in almost like Conan or like a Batman comic, where Gotham City is really every city at once. Like you have a mountain and an observatory and a penitentiary and an insane asylum and a dock and then an airport, and then you have giant skyscrapers, but you also have a forest for some reason. Like when you look at Gotham City, like it's every city in the world crushed together. Like it's and so that's kind of what I did in mine. I fused all these different like martial arts worlds together. So it's not Japan, it's not China, it's not Malaysia or Thailand. It's really parts of all of them fused together. Kind of like how Frankenstein is made up of a bunch of different bodies sewn together. That's kind of how the world is that he lives in. And that allowed me to have all sorts of different types of martial arts, weapons, and fighting styles all living together in the same world, as well as the same time. Like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was written at a specific time in England, like during that time period. And I don't think in Japan or China, like things like matched up exactly right. Like they might have been already using guns or other things at that time. And I really wanted it to be about swords and throwing stars and ninjas and horseback riding, and not really have like guns and explosives. Like there might be a little bit, but for the most part, it's like what you would watch if you would watch like a Shaw Brothers movie like 36 Chambers or Master Killer or things like that, when you're like, oh, okay, like it's a bow and arrow, martial arts, kung fu, samurai sword world. Not like, oh, you can dodge bullets and like it's not a bullet world. That's not what I was about. Because also that gets like that starts getting like overly complicated, and you like I did think about it. I did think about the setting of like what time period do I want this to be in, but it's most fun for me and most what I was into when I was a young kid, watching all like the Run Shaw films and Bruce Lee stuff, and it's like, oh, it's like a period piece, but it's got like its own little crafted things that fuse stuff together. Because, we forget like China and Japan were very much like closed cultures for a lot of their years, like for a lot of their development. And so any outsider, whoever they are, stands out. And they didn't really like that. Like in Japan, you hear that word, you hear gaijin. That doesn't mean white person. That means barbarian. That means anybody who's not Japanese. So when they say that, and you watch like Richard Chamberlain in Shogun or something like that, it's different. And I mean, even in real life, like Bruce Lee, like when Bruce Lee went to San Francisco and he first was in the United States, he opened up martial arts, a dojo, teaching students kung fu. The other Chinese members of the Chinatown community hated Bruce for doing that, because he was teaching outsiders, non-Chinese people, their martial arts. And Bruce actually had to fight, actually got challenged. People would show up to the dojo and fight him. Because of like who he was teaching. So that all sort of blends into the legend of that, like, to be inclusive instead of exclusive. You want everybody to be part of something, and that's really in my story. That's the thing. Like Frankenstein learns martial arts from people who are willing to teach anyone martial arts. And he uses those martial arts to fight essentially, a warlord, a bad person who's trying to just keep power for themselves. And so that adds to like it's a cool strike. Like you get to draw cool things. You get to draw guys on horsebacks and armies and cool weapons, but you also have some sort of a real reason to fight, right? Like some sort of conflict. We were talking earlier about like, can a character lose? Can a character get beaten up? And I'm like, yeah, like that's where the story comes in, because you have to triumph over something. If everything's too easy, like, and I mean that, like, you kind of look at it, like, look at a character like the Hulk or Superman. We know they're gonna win. like, because they're so powerful. But the trick is a writer has to trick you somehow to think that that character could lose. And sometimes they write the character losing. You know, Superman doesn't win every fight. That's why Superman has like 40 types of kryptonite. So, you know, Lex Luthor can like get a kryptonite boxing glove and beat the crap out of him and something, you know?
And that was funny in that I forgot what animated movie it was when Lex Luthor beat Superman's rear end in that red room with the red kryptonite and just outboxed him. I was dying. That was so good.
Well, you know, it's funny. Like one of my favorite books is it's Superman versus Muhammad Ali. It's an awesome book.
Oh.
Yeah, it's drawn by Neil Adams. And it's an awesome book. It has a great cover. Like it's a cover of like Superman in the ring and Muhammad Ali is punching him.
Yeah.
And there's a great sequence in it where Muhammad Ali is teaching Superman to box. And they go into a room with like in the Fortress of Solitude with like the red sun of Krypton. So Superman's now like mortal, right? And of course, Muhammad Ali beats the crap out of him because Superman doesn't know how to fight. And that's kind of like what led me to like my character too. Like, what if Superman actually did know how to fight? What if he was a martial arts master or did just know how to box well? Like, then it would be different. But like, he doesn't have to. It's too easy for him. So I think that sometimes is a detriment to Superman's character. Like, it's harder to make you think like, oh man, Superman's going to have a tough time now. I don't know. But then, like, you know, you go and read a book like Muhammad Ali. And again, Muhammad Ali was like, he was the heavyweight champion of the world when they made that comic book. He was in it, and it was a total, like team-up book. But Muhammad Ali was not going to lose a fight to Superman. That guy was 10 times, he was King Kong. He was bigger than life. He was bigger than Superman at the time. And he was like, you know, if I'm in this book, I'm not losing a fight. Like, it's not going to happen. Not a boxing match, for sure. So, you know, you have to go that extra level. Be like, well, he's Superman. We have to find a way to weaken him, right? And yeah, you can have characters like Doomsday, right? Like, oh, Doomsday is this super Kryptonian war beast, and they can fight and do all this, you know, stuff. And, you know, he can kill Superman and you know, cool stuff. Super cool stuff. And that's what you have to do. You have to keep upping, like with Superman, you got to ratchet it up. Like it's like Dragon Ball Z. As soon as Goku wins in one like of the super battles, he then has to get 100 times stronger for the next arc battle. Like in DBZ, he's so strong, but then in like, you know, the next one, he's like the next level of strong. And when I was, you know, coming up with my character and trying to figure out the story, I was like, well, he's still got to be able to bleed and be hurt and still, you know, human in many ways so that, like, he can be cut, he can be burned, he can be, you know, you can kill my character. You can do it. It's not easy, but then that adds in why the martial arts aids him and helps him in a fight. Because now he has all the training so he can dodge lethal weapons. He can dodge things that'll hurt him. He can overcome things through either mental discipline or training to, you know, he doesn't have to always use his strength to win the battle. Sometimes he's just going to be clever and well-trained, and that's how he's going to win the fight. And that's what you see in lots of martial arts movies. It's always, you know, the character comes in, they don't know martial arts. And they're always like, it's like Luke when he meets Yoda, right? Hey, I want to be a Jedi warrior. And Yoda's like, who are you? Like, what's your deal? And he's like, no, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm the chosen one. I'm going to be great. And he's like, yeah. Like, here, I'm going to act crazy for 20 minutes to see how you handle this.
Yeah.
And Yoda even says, you know, Yoda goes ghost speak to Obi-Wan Kenobi and says, I can't teach this guy. He's not going to listen to me. He's impetuous. And then Luke's like, oh, you know, craps his pants. And he's like, oh, you're Master Yoda. And he's like, yeah, you know, being a Grand Master isn't all what you think it is. Like, I'm not what you thought I was going to look like. Yet I'm going to lift your X-Wing out of the swamp with my little cane. And you can't do that. And, you know, he even says to him, like, you know, Luke's like, man, I don't believe it. And Yoda's like, well, that's why you fail. Because you don't believe, you know. And so it's a mindset in the story. So all these characters have to sort of go through those journeys, right? Like the hero's journey. Like they have to meet resistance and overcome it, triumph through adversity, and possibly lose and get beaten up so that they can come back better, more mature, and stronger. Like just overall better, you know? Oh, speed lines. You gotta love them.
Gotta absolutely love speed lines.
I'll tell you what, the computer, it helps you do speed lines a great deal because I've done the manual way, like either through with the ruler and ruling them out, or using like screen tone sheets and like scratching them off and like laying them down. And it's an unforgiving thing. It becomes very fiddly. You have to do a lot of correction, and it's hard when you put stuff and you want to have a nice finished artboard. You really want that piece to look good, but some of the production makes it hard. Like you have to cut around so many little fiddly bits, or just like rule out stuff and then white out over them. Like the way you were drawing, like you draw something and then you'd white out and erase out like part of the line when it intersected. Like when people you can look at original art, and lots of analog artists do that on the board. The difference is you see the actual whiteout, and some people don't like that on their original art pages. Like I've gone to shows, like that's one of the things I do when I go to comic book shows.
Yeah,
I look at the original art. I think it's super cool to me. And you can see the whiteout. You can see where they've cut a piece of paper and patched over for a hand or a mouth or something, because like they don't have time to like just like white it all out. They're just gonna like take a piece of paper, slap it down, and then when they shot it with the camera, it just looks right. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The same with like the word balloons. You can see how some of the word balloons would be stuck on like Shrinky Dinks. They'd just be like crack and peel laid onto the board, and you're like, oh, okay, well that's how you do it.
All right. Well, that's the end of our show. As we're doing the replay right now, I'd like to thank Tom for coming on to the show. We did a full hour and a half here getting this drawing done and getting it all put out and everything. We have Foot Frankenstein here. This thing is great. I enjoyed drawing this character very much so. Tell everybody where they can find you and get the book and stuff.
Sure. Okay, so you can find me, Tom Kelly. You can find me on Instagram at Tom Kelly Art. So it's Tom Kelly Art at Instagram. You can also find me on my DeviantArt page, which is tomkellyart.deviantart.com. You can find my book, Foot Fist Frankenstein, on Kickstarter.com in the comics and graphic novel section. There's also links below, so you can go right there from this. And those are probably the best ways to see my art, check me out, support me. Definitely go to the Kickstarter, check it out. It's got a lot of super cool stuff. This is going to be one of the rewards that'll be added in. I've also got a ton of artwork on my sites. I make art all the time. I'm a comic book artist and like indie artist and illustrator. As you can see behind me, that's my drawing board. Woo! I'm talking on my monitor where I have my drawing pads and stuff like that. So I've been on Instagram and DeviantArt for several years now. So I've got a huge back catalog of cool stuff you can look at.
Awesome. Well, Tom, this has been an excellent episode. I have enjoyed this one very much so. We got the Kickstarter links in the comments. Again, I still have to color this bad boy up.
No, it looks awesome, man. I love the inks, man. Those look cool.
Thank you very much. I had a ton of fun with this. But this will be the crossover print. You donate $5 to Tom's Kickstarter. You donate $5 to Daniel's Kickstarter. You get this digital print for doing that. So please show some support. Help both these men out. They're out here doing fantastic things in the comic book industry. Both those Kickstarter links are in the comments on Twitch and on Facebook. Tom, I would recommend going back through the comments because we have people asking you even more questions.
Oh, yeah.
You did a great job taking up the whole time, man. So I was able to really focus and dig in on this thing.
Oh, I can be a chatty Cathy, and I got a lot to say about this project. Like I said, it's been in my brain, and I've been working on it for years now. So I've got a lot to say and a lot to share with everybody, which is great. I also know when I do like Zoom things or I do drink and draw with people over Zoom. Yeah, I actually have to just ink stuff. I can't actually draw. It takes too much of my brain power. I can't talk and draw at the same time. So I can ink and draw, but I can't draw. So I give you credit for being able to just keep up with the goofiness of my crazy conversation and draw a really kick-ass piece. That's amazing. I can't wait to see it colored. I think it's going to be just amazing.
Thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate it. So we're going to get that done. This will be up and available. It'll be up on Facebook and Twitch, and then it'll be up on YouTube later on tonight, so people can check it out on the replays or whatnot. I think I want to try to get Tom on again before the end of his Kickstarter and see what else we can do with it. This is like super, super fun. Thank you. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. If you cannot donate to the Kickstarters, give the Kickstarters at least a share. That would be very much so appreciated as well. You can catch me on shortfusemediagroup.com, where you can get my comic books, rocking the FSK shirt right now. Get the physical comics for $5, but then get the digital comics for free when you buy the physicals. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Yep. Woo.